A decision by the U.S. Supreme Court to take a case linked to the January 6 attack on the Capitol could have consequences altering the trajectory of the criminal case against Donald Trump over his effort to overturn the 2020 election, as well as for hundreds of other people prosecuted for the riot. The nation's highest court has agreed to consider whether federal prosecutors can charge January 6 riot defendants with a statute that makes it a crime to obstruct an official proceeding of Congress, a charge also filed against Trump in his 2020 election interference case. The decision by the conservative-dominated court to take up the matter complicates and could delay Trump's trial in federal district court in Washington, which is currently scheduled for next March. The Supreme Court's eventual ruling in Fisher v. United States will indicate whether the obstruction charge under Section 1512 of Title 18 of the U.S. Criminal Code can be used against Trump and could undercut the other general conspiracy charges brought against the former president by the special counsel Jack Smith. The court could also end up, by extension, invalidating many convictions against rioters involved in the January 6 Capitol attack. The obstruction statute has been the Justice Department's primary weapon to hold accountable those involved in the violence of that day. The case involves Joseph Fisher, who was indicted in part on charges that he obstructed the congressional certification of the 2020 election results when he assaulted police officers during the riot. Fisher sought to dismiss part of his indictment, arguing that the obstruction statute passed under the Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002 in response to the Enron scandal had to do with document or evidence tampering. The U.S. District Judge Carl Nichols, who presided in the case, interpreted the statute as requiring prosecutors to show that the defendant took some action with respect to a document or record and did not apply to Fisher as he assaulted police officers at the Capitol. But a split three-judge panel at the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit reversed the decision, deciding that obstruction applied more broadly and encompassed impeding any official proceeding. Fisher and two other January 6 defendants appealed to the Supreme Court to resolve the issue. The Supreme Court may not decide whether the obstruction statute can be applied to the Capitol attack until June, when the next term ends. In the meantime, the viability of that charge, and potentially that of other general conspiracy charges against Trump, remains uncertain. It could also give Trump a separate opening to pause proceedings in his 2020 election interference case, pending the Supreme Court's consideration in Fisher. Although he is unlikely to succeed, similar cases typically go to trial, and then if certain counts are thrown out, the sentences are adjusted.